What's up, guys? Chris here, Science of Life, back again with another video. Vital Week continues here on the channel. What can I say? I am currently in the middle of working on a new commercial sound bank for Vital that you guys are going to be able to purchase soon. So I thought, why not just share my workflow? And today we're going to make a pad from absolute scratch, starting from the very beginning, just working from Vital with an initialized preset. We're going to go over some points about the Wavetable Editor and some of the other things that you might not know about Vital. And this is not a full-on like step-by-step, deep walkthrough of the Wavetable Editor itself or anything like that. This is just specifically for Ambient, okay? So we're gonna make a pad from scratch. Here we go. Let's get started. We start out with the initial Sawtooth Wavetable, and we're gonna click on the pencil tool right here and just load up the Wavetable Editor. Now, what I like to do with this, if I'm gonna just start like drawing a wavetable, is I like to go to the factory and hit the basic shapes. Now in basic shapes, it comes with different, obviously wavetable frames, right? And they're all separated out. So it starts with this sine wave right here. And what you can do, and this Wavetable Editor, it looks very simple. Like it looks like it's not that complex. It's actually very deep. And I'm gonna go over some of the things about it that make it so deep. But right now, what we're gonna do is each one of these little diamonds right here represents a frame in the wavetable. And they don't have any like morphing to them. So they're just, that's why they're all separated out, right? So what you can do, the sine wave is here, and then you just kind of like hover over the rest of them and highlight them and right click and say remove keyframes. Now we just have a sine wave. A sine wave is a sine wave, right? And up here on the top, you see this column, and then you see the bottom column. On the top, we have the harmonics. So each one of these represents one of the harmonics in the frequency spectrum. So as we click on this, we're gonna start adding harmonics. On the bottom, we have the phase, all right? Now again, I did not design the synthesizer. I don't really understand it that well, but what I like to do, my little trick for making cool wavetables, like from the start, is you start with a sine wave, and then we're just gonna start adding different harmonics to the sine wave. You see that? So as we start adding harmonics, like, cause if you start with, say, let's start with nothing, you have noise, right? And then you have the first harmonic, that's a sine wave. You add another harmonic, and you start adding 2, 3, 4, right? And it starts morphing into this really cool shape, okay? So you can just start playing around it, and it doesn't have to be like complicated. You can just kind of randomly start adding harmonics here, all right? So let's start going with that. Now what you're gonna do is you're gonna double click, or right here, on the end, and now we've created another frame all the way at the end, all right? So what we can do now is on this frame, we're gonna switch the blending to Spectral blend right here, okay? And we're gonna start here. And so now we have 2 identical frames. Now, if we click on the last one and we start changing the phase of it like this, and then you can kind of sweep through, you can see in the background, that gray wavetable. Now we have a morphing wavetable back at the beginning that we've sort of like created right here. Now it's going one to another, right? So as I play this key, you can hear the phase is changing. Now, what I like to do is I was talking about this yesterday on yesterday's video. It was like a good wavetable just start sort of like soft and add complexity and dynamics as it goes along. So we can go to the last frame again. We can keep this as our basic, like that's our beginning. And we go to the last one. We'll go to the last one here, and we'll add some more harmonics. And you can play this, all right? And you see as I start adding later harmonics, it starts getting more and more like detailed and complex, right? So now we go back, and now if we morph through the whole wavetable again, listen. Yeah, so you see that? It's more like a, okay? And that could be a cool start, right? So we just sort of like pitch this down a whole octave, and I have an actual chord. Okay, turn the level down. That's not bad, right? We'll keep it there for now, okay? So that's our first wavetable, all right? Now what we can do is we can just head over to the LFOs here and maybe switch it to sine and put it in sync, and then maybe we'll make this like 4:1, drag the modulation handle over to the wavetable frame and set it to 100%. And as we play, it's gonna morph through the entire wavetable we just created. So you see how quick that is. I mean, that was like no trouble at all. All we did was start with a sine, right? Add some harmonics, create another keyframe at the end, add some more harmonics, maybe switch the phase a little bit, and then morph between the two using the spectral blend here. You can use different forms of blend. And again, this is not a Wavetable Editor tutorial. This is just for ambient music in particular. So then, all right, and now we got that. Cool. So let's get deeper. So now we can add another oscillator. All right, and as we hit play, now we're hearing both oscillators because now we have another sawtooth. You can do that. You can do the same process again, or you could just start drawing different shapes here, connecting these dots. You can add more grids as you want. Okay. I mean, that's not that interesting, but you can add modifiers to this wave source because it's just called wave source. There's different types of sources here. You can add a source. You can add line source, audio file source. Again, a full tutorial. There's lots of videos on YouTube about that. So wave warp, we can just add a wave warp. Like say we'll add a wave warp keyframe. We'll put this here and then we'll put another dot here and then we'll add harmonics here to this one. Check this out. It starts to get all sine wavy again. Now we completely changed the shape. Now we're going from here to here. We'll spectral blend it. And then in the middle, we can do like a wave warp. Whoa, like this, right? Start warping the wave here. And now what we have is, okay, you can actually go like this to this. And then you can add another one here and then change the wave warp to like that. And now what it does, it goes from that first shape that we had. That's kind of interesting. All right. Maybe you could like pitch this down an octave. And that sort of did what the distortion algorithms do over here. Like that's sort of a squeeze thing. Like if I squeeze that, it's almost a double negative, right? It did the same thing that it did. But if we add like say a harmonic stretch on it, that's interesting to me. Right? Wow. And if you do that in combination with moving the wavetable frame, you're going to get something really interesting. All right, look at that. Again, we just did that all from scratch. Like it wasn't like, okay, so let's do this. Sync on an LFO. This is LFO2 now. We're going to do this in 1-to-1. And we'll move the wavetable. And at the very same time, we'll also set a randomization to the harmonic stretch. And we'll do that at, say, I don't know, 1-to-1. Or different. We'll go like quarter notes. That's a crazy wavetable right there, right? That's just bananas. But that's kind of cool though, right? Because we haven't even messed with the filters. We haven't even changed the ADSR, like nothing. It's just, wow. Instant alien planet, right? So here we go. We're going to change the attack to say 4 seconds. We're going to add the release till maybe, I don't know, 6 seconds, right? And so now you can zoom out using this little magnifying glass, bend the shape a little bit here, and again, this is without even like adding filters or adding effects or anything. We got something pretty cool going on here, okay? So we can add a third oscillator here. All right, and maybe this one. Oh, the other thing I forgot to mention was on these, you have full unison control, phase control, okay? And there's also, in the advanced mode, there's different types of unison, right? So maybe on this one, let's get crazy here, and we'll turn off this Oscillator 3 for a second. And on this one, let's just focus on Oscillator 2, our crazy moon landing, alien radar signal, whatever. So advanced, if I turn on the unison, if I add more voices, it's gonna sound pretty wild, right? But once I hit that unison button over here, it's gonna add, you have different options for unison. You have unison center drop 12, which is adding a octave, 12 semitones down in mono. And then you have drop 24, which is like way too deep. They have octave, which might sound kind of interesting. 2 times octave, which sometimes they use. Let's use 2 times octave, but then we'll change the detune down to like 4% or like 3 or like. That's pretty wild. Whew. Let's slow up the randomization on that. Let's slow it up to like something really slow. 4/1. And let's slow this down too. That's way too fast. There we go. See, that's really cool because that gives you an ever-evolving, morphing wavetable. And again, we just did that from absolute scratch right there. Okay, so now let's turn back on Oscillator 1. Now we have some. Now we're getting somewhere. I like that. That's cool. All right. So let's just go with those 2 oscillators, okay? Again, just simple, right? So here we go. We're gonna add a filter that's gonna cover both of those, or maybe we'll just do 1 and 1. So we'll have 1, 1. And again, if you have one filter that's set to Oscillator 1, one set to Oscillator 2, okay? We could potentially make Oscillator 2 a high pass. And then you can really emphasize all of those upper harmonics, upper frequencies, okay? And here's a trick I did yesterday. You just take the stereo, split the stereo effect, put a randomization knob on the stereo, and it gets affected. You can see that little dot there in the middle of the stereo. And now you have this random thing splitting the stereo fields, and it's randomly altering it, shifting the phase, which is really cool. Now, 12 dB between the analog filters, the ones I use the most, 12 and 24, it does matter, okay? Which one you use. There's a much steeper like cutoff there on 24. So maybe for the subtlety, we're just gonna go 12, okay? Now, before we even add any effects, what we can also do here, a lot of people notice that I put these like envelopes on my filter. Of course I do. And then, so you have this envelope 2. We can just take envelope 2 and just slap it onto the filter here, okay? And that's going to, and as I release it, it's gonna release, right? So you can start really like deep into the filter and bring it up. That's a little too slow. So let's slow it up. Let's give that the same attack that we have. So we have 3 seconds, 3 seconds, that's good. So it's slowly gonna bring that out. And maybe let's change that effect to there. I like that. All right, and then as a final touch, before we add some effects, we can go to the sample oscillator. Now this comes with some basic, Vital comes with like, what is this, 10 basic, this is just a sampler. Like you can literally put anything you want in it. Before I started recording the video, I put some of the same samples that I used in my other sound bank, Ancient Technology for Serum. So if you want to check that out, it's at materialsoundsets.bandcamp.com. So these are just some of the samples that I use. And this was literally me recording stuff, random stuff in my garage. So we have a pin, like this was like pins. That's pretty cool. Nails here, obviously this is self-explanatory. Dropping nails on my garage floor. And samples, the power of samples is they sound organic and they can add some really cool textures to your pads. Like they're like, you know, something else. It's something that kind of interests the higher, upper chakras regions, if you will. Like it's just really like, it tickles the senses in a different way than the oscillators do, okay? So there we go. So now we have a sample and we can do something, you can either pitch the sample, you can pitch it way down, watch this. So that's 2 octaves down on the sample. I like that, I'm gonna go with that. And now let's add some effects. So turn on the compressor, and immediately with the multi-band compressor, you can hear those upper harmonics start to come out. And again, we're just gonna do a simple ambient recipe here. I'm gonna put it on dotted and then turn the mix up, turn the feedback up. Here we go. I like that. And finally, some reverb. And make sure your time is set to around 10 or 11 seconds. You can already start to hear it right there. And there you go. Delicious. ambient pad, done from scratch in Vital. Final thoughts here. You can absolutely change the LFO shapes here. You can modulate randomly the wavetable position. You get out a third oscillator. There's a million things you can do. Add macros. Okay, you can start dragging the macros and this macro thing to any knob you want inside of Vital. There's other effects here we did not use, but on a basic level, that's a pad in Vital. That sounds gorgeous. Put it in the mix, add another reverb on top of it. Lower the filter down if you want. If you want to get even more subtle tones like this. Turn down the level of the males. You can also modulate the panning too. We didn't even talk about that. So like, put a random, let's do random. You can random on the pan. And if you right click on any of the modulation wheels, you can just make bipolar, right? So now we're making this pan bipolar over here, okay? And now this Oscillator 2 is gonna be randomly panning through all that, through the different stereo fields, and we can affect the level in which it does. There you go. To give your pad even more width. And finally, we'll put random 4 on the pan here, right click, make bipolar, and now we're moving. I love it. So with just 2 oscillators, the sampler, and basically some random shapes in the Wavetable Editor, there's your ambient pad. I hope this video was helpful for you. If you haven't subscribed to the channel already and you feel called to do so, I would love to have you subscribe. Leave a like down on the video or comment some of your favorite tricks on Vital. I always love to hear stuff like this. This synth to me represents the ultimate in sharing, shareability. It's a synth for the people, if you will. Anyway, this has been a lot of fun. Thank you guys so much for watching. My name is Signs of Life, and I will see you all on the next one.